And hello, everybody. Welcome to another Adventures in Truth livecast. My name is Jim Case, and I am your host. Looking forward to an amazing show today. We have Deb Rock-Evans joining us from New Zealand, and she'll be joining us live here in just a second to take us up the next level of the pyramid of wellness, going from connection to self-care. It's going to be a great conversation. Very much looking forward to seeing Deb and having that conversation. And welcome to the show. Glad you're here. As you can see, we're going to start the show talking a little bit about my book, and then we're going to dive in. So thank you all for being here. I appreciate you very much. Talking about the book, here it is. I am so excited. Truly, I am. Sorry, a little distracted there for a second, pushing my buttons. But Fear is a Choice, Unraveling the Illusion of Our Separation from Love, is going live at the end of the month. We are in pre-order now through Amazon, through Barnes & Noble, through IndieBound. Get your copy. I'm telling you, this book will change your life because it will change your relationship with fear. And when you change that relationship with fear, it changes everything in your experience. So this book will guide you through, give you exercises, will talk you through and give you the sort of the evolution of fear through the human experience, and then how we engage fear and how we disengage with fear so that we can operate from an opportunity-based experience instead of from a fear-based experience. And what we can experience and what you can experience when you make that transition, when you're able to learn how to shift state and maintain that aligned place that's not driven by fear, your life will change exponentially in ways that you can't even imagine from right here, right now. So www.adventuresintruth.com. You can order the book there. You can go directly to Barnes & Noble or directly to Amazon for those orders. And I'm going to take a second here. I want to share a little bit of the book with you if you don't mind. So be with me here just a second. We're looking at how fear staked its claim in our collective psyche. And this is chapter 2 in section 1. This will be a short reading today, but just a quick one to kind of get you in touch with some of the information that's going on in the book. Because humans have an innate desire to understand their experiences and to give those experiences meaning and purpose, these early humans began to create meaning as a way of understanding these strange and often scary events. How did they do this? Well, they do by making up stories using their imagination. Over time, these intricate stories became the fabric of their lives and experiences. They told them repeatedly until they became a core belief of their experience, passed on generation after generation. It wasn't until their cognitive abilities evolved again that later humans were able to explore, test, experiment with, and understand these experiences in two distinct ways. These new and different ways were called religion and science. Religion was born of the ritual, superstition, and magical thinking developed over millennia of stories. And science came from the experimentation, the trial and error processes that man devised in an attempt to more concretely explain his existence. The purpose of understanding all this evolution is to allow us to see clearly that our first experience with the emotion of fear came from encountering things we could not explain. It was decided or agreed that there must be some force or forces much greater than us, and that apparently this force didn't like us and would even kill us given the chance. And from this belief that we were not safe in the world, under the invisible control of a mighty and terrible power, we gave birth to mythology and fear. As a result, our very survival is no longer limited by what our senses could identify for us, i.e. animals, plants, or the terrain. And now there was an even bigger unknown element, the gods. Oh, I lost my place. You might even say that fear is the original sin, that point when humanity determined that it was separate from God. This concept of separation triggered a convoluted and difficult journey, and it created a fertile, rich soil on which fear could grow like a weed, and along with it, our sense of unworthiness. Lots of good information here. I hope you get a chance to get the book. I would love for you to experience it. We'll do more readings along the way, but I'm so excited that we're going to be It's going to be coming out in a few weeks. That's really exciting. So we're going to get to start the show. Thank you all very much. We'll be back in just a second. Woo, and we're back. That was quick and amazing, wasn't it? I'm going to bring Deb in to say hi so we can get the show kicked off here and get ready to talk about moving from connection to self-care, the period of Jiminy Christmas, my English, the Pyramid of Wellness series. Hi, Deb.
Hi, how are you? It's one of those days, is it, Jim?
I'm having an English problem, apparently.
Tongue tied.
But it's all good. And glad to be here. Great to see you. Glad. How are things in New Zealand?
Good morning
and
from New Zealand.
How's ship life? Yes, it's now. For those of you who don't know, it's Saturday morning in New Zealand.
That's right. Always ahead of you. Yeah, and it's been raining overnight. It was a bit of a rocky night. We got rocked to sleep. Yep.
Oh, okay.
But it's all good. I enjoy that aspect of boat life. Absolutely do. It's great.
Yeah, they rock to sleep. That's what I love about cruise ships is I realize cruise ships are a little bigger, but the movement is always nice. Some of the other stuff not so much, but the movement is nice. So today we are back to
You're always kind of balancing.
Yes, always. Today we're going to go up the Pyramid of Wellness series a little further. We're going to be moving from connection to self-care. And this conversation is going to be really cool because it's becoming clearer and clearer as we evolve this process. What happens when you're unconscious and what happens when you're conscious, and the changes that occur in your overall experience when you really dial into your wellness, when you dial into making that connection, creating that alignment, and then showing up in it. And so we're going to dive into that in just a second, probably more like a few minutes, because we're going to take a moment to focus. One of my favorite parts of the show is just to kind of get everybody
mine too.
here and now, to bring us together, to bring us present in now. Whether you stay for a minute or stay for an hour, it's all good. But what I want to do is be able to help you as a part of this process of Adventures in Truth and getting in touch with your body, getting in touch with your breath, and being able to manage it so that you can change state. So we're going to dive into that now. And if you all would just bring your focus now to your body, just bring your awareness wherever you're doing, wherever you can. If you can close your eyes or go to half mast with your eyes, soft focus. And just bring all of your awareness into your body. Pick a spot, any spot. Go into your heart space. We'll start in the heart. And just allow yourself to experience what your body is feeling right now. As you bring all of that awareness into the body, let your consciousness roam around in your body. Just be on the inside and let your consciousness run down your legs and through your hips and through your arms and neck and shoulders. And as you do, become aware of how the body feels. Notice that the body has experiences, and those experiences are not you. They're just experiences. So let your consciousness become aware of those experiences. Is there a place that feels uncomfortable? If there is, just focus your awareness there and breathe into that place just for a moment. Notice the places where your body feels good. And relish that feeling. And now I want you to bring your awareness to your breath. I want you to be acutely aware of how you're breathing right now, this moment. We're actually going to do a breathing process together, but I want you to become aware through your own consciousness how you breathe. What does it feel like? How does it move in your body? Do you find that you breathe only down a little bit into your lungs? Do you find that you breathe fully into your lungs? Do you find your breath to be deep? Do you find it to be shallow? What is the current state of your breath? And now we're going to consciously manage the breath. We're going to use the breath to bring ourselves present, to shift state, to enhance our connection and our aliveness in this moment. And we're going to go through a process of breathing where we're going to inhale in through the nose to a count of 4. And as you fill to the top, when you reach the top, you're going to rest for a moment, relax the body, and then you'll release from the mouth to a count of 6. And when we reach the bottom, again, you're going to relax your body, relax your shoulders just for a second, and then re-engage the breath and inhale to 4, again at the top, exhale to 6, and then at the bottom. And the reason we do the inhale to 4 and the exhale to 6 is we want to fill with all of this amazing energy. Remember, breath is life force. Breath is prana. Breath is the energy that animates us. So when you're taking this breath in, you want to fill completely with that breath. And the exhale is allowing you to just purge. It's moving all of that old energy, all that stale energy and breath. It's moving it out of the lungs and out of the system so that when you take that new breath, you're filling all those spaces with new energy. You're filling all those spaces with fresh life force that's going through your entire body, that's oxygenating your blood, that's oxygenating your cells. It's creating oxygenation for the brain. It's providing all this powerful energy. So once again, bringing your awareness to the breath, eyes closed or at a point of focus, whatever works best for you. And we're going to begin with that inhale. Inhaling 2, 3, 4, filled up as we hold at the top and relax. And now we're going to release from the mouth. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we're going to rest at the bottom, empty. Rest in the emptiness. Engaging the breath, inhaling. 2, fully expanding. 4, at the top, we relax. And then we release from the mouth. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. As we rest at the bottom, feeling the void. Engage the breath and inhale. 2, 3, 4, holding, and then releasing from the mouth. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, resting and taking in the void. Engage the breath, inhale, last time together. 3, 4, fully relaxing at the top, and then surrendering the breath, letting it go from the mouth. 3, 4, 5, 6, and take an extra moment in the emptiness. Just be comfortable in that emptiness and allow your breath to continue. Continue the rhythm on your own, inhaling to 4, hold, exhaling to 6, hold. Let that breath cycle continue. Feel the natural rhythm that begins to build in your body as you manage that breath, as you allow the inhale to fill, as you decide to hold, as you decide to release and purge, and then as you decide to rest in the void. Let that breath continue to flow. As your awareness is deeply embedded inside, observe what's happening inside of you as that breath continues to flow. And then I want you to just take these words in. I'm going to float these words around in the consciousness here. Just take them in. Let them do what they do. Feel them and let them go. I am the evolution of God realized as matter. I inform and guide that expression as the pure expression of God. I show up as God. I connect as God. I align as God. I am creation realized. And from that, I create, expand, and engage. I am. Wherever you are, completing that cycle of breath one more time through the cycle before we complete. Taking that inhale up, 2, 3, 4, holding at the top, relaxing, releasing it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then rest in the bottom. And just allow yourself to relax into that space now. Fully present, bring your awareness now, present to this moment, present to this reality. Engaging us here at the show as we get ready for an amazing show. Come on back, open your eyes. Deb's going to join us and we're going to dive in.
Thanks, Jim. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Love it.
My pleasure. Love bringing it together. All right. So we're going to do a quick review of the pyramid of wellness so that you guys all know what I'm talking about as I'm talking. So the whole premise of the pyramid and the whole idea of the evolution of the pyramid was this idea of the activities that we do every day, all the time. And it's interesting that these things happen to be the things that can become and do become and are the foundations of our growth and transformation. So here's the basis of the pyramid. If you are connecting, if you are doing, if you are, you have a daily practice, you're doing the work, here's what this looks like from my perspective. So we start at the bottom being breathing. And what we just did is managing the breath. That's the thing that we find that we do the most every day is breathe. So if that is the foundation of our life, then why wouldn't it be the foundation of our wellness? Well, when we know how to manage breath, when we know how to engage breath, what we find is that it changes everything in the life experience because you create this foundation of peace and clarity and alignment through the breath, because the breath works through all the energy system of the body and all of the energy system and energy bodies that expand out from where we are. So learning how to manage the breath, learning how to engage the breath and use the breath to stimulate state change, to stimulate alignment with God, with higher self, with that greater part of ourselves. What happens then is we begin then to have an enrollment of the mind. So rather than the mind being this sort of erratic, out there trying to manage and control everything, the mind gets enrolled in the process of the breath and begins to inform and help to, inform's a good word, but it's the ego then kind of lines up with the soul. So it becomes the body and everything about it becomes in alignment or in union with that higher expression. So all of the parts are working in the same direction. Does that make sense? So you have your breath happening, you're managing your breath. That creates a calming effect in the mind, which also creates an enrolling effect in the mind, because then you can use the information from the five senses to support how you change your focus or how you change your desire. So the mind becomes a part of the process, which then leads us to the next piece, which was about sleep, was about time of rest. And we call that integrating and rejuvenating, because ultimately that's what that is meant to be for us. It's not meant to be a point of avoidance for what we don't love about our life. It's actually meant to be all of the experiences and realities that we're creating and engaged in and using. We are now getting a break from that so we can integrate all of the information, all of the feeling, all of the experience can be integrated, and rejuvenation can happen in the energy system because we've used the breath throughout the day. We have the mind enrolled in the process of our lives, so we have a focus and a direction. Now, when we go to rest, we integrate all of what we learned, all of what we experienced, so that when we become conscious again in this reality, we are fully ready to engage the next level of interaction. And that next level of interaction in this process is the creating. So now we have this wonderful foundation to create, because we built this powerful, powerful foundation of wellness that leads us from, I've used the breath to stimulate my alignment. My alignment is stimulating greater mind, which is focusing, helping me to focus into the things that I desire and to create. But more importantly, focusing my desire, focusing my energy in a way that is a part of the stimulation and growth and change process and the creating process. So we get all that stimulation going, we get to integrate it. Now we get to go out into the world and take that energy and create. So rather than the idea of being at work, and here, let me shift this over here so you can see that there are two pyramids. The pyramid that has the pyramid on the left, which has, that's the aligned pyramid, and the unconscious pyramid or conscious pyramid. Let's do that way, conscious. So we go from creating, now we're in a mode of those desires coming forward, and we are being inspired to action. We're being inspired to things that are connecting the dots for these creations to happen. And that in and of itself is immensely satisfying, but leads to, because we're so dialed into that alignment, leads to now the manifesting. And the manifesting, as you can see, on one side becomes consuming, on the other side becomes, in the conscious world, becomes manifesting. So your inspiration leads you to these amazing experiences, and these experiences unfold in a way that bring your desires to life. And this is about everything. It's not just about one particular thing. And then that manifesting, because these things are happening. So if you look back and forth across the pyramid from conscious to unconscious, you have breath and unconscious breath. So in the unconscious breath, we're not paying a lot of attention to breathing. We're just letting the body do what it does. What happens in the mind then is that the mind is all about the ego. So it becomes about how, it becomes about willpower. It becomes about force and driving and resistance. Where in the aligned state, everything is about, that alignment is about non-resistant. It's about surrender. So here we are, powering our way through our lives, deciding how it's going to happen and fighting our way to get our slice, because there's only enough for me and not enough for you. And then we come home tired and exhausted and can't function, so we go to sleep. And the sleep is not restorative necessarily. The sleep is more of an avoidance state than it is a recuperative state. You're still getting recuperation because you're sleeping, but the consciousness of your body in that state is literally vacating for lack of comfort. So it's like it's running away. It's like, I'm done with this for the day. And then when you come back, now you got to go to work, because you're so built into the hows in this unconscious state, so connected to the hows and the willpower, that now you got to get to work. You got to do the work. You got to work. You got to grind it out. And again, if you take that to the conscious state, it becomes more about creating. So it is an energy of connection. It is an energy of alignment. So now we're working. We're working and probably doing things we don't like, probably doing things we're not happy about, probably doing things that don't satisfy us. So what does that lead to? Well, that leads to, I've got to find satisfaction somewhere. I've got to find feeling somewhere. So now I go from working to consuming. So rather than creating to manifesting, we're going from working to consuming. So consuming then becomes about whatever it is: sex, food, money, alcohol, drugs, all of those things, all of the consuming things that you can think of, shopping. But what you'll notice here in the unconscious pyramid is that this unconscious pyramid then winds its way back down. So you can see that where we were into connecting the last time, we were talking about how that connection, those connections now are much greater. And connecting is about how you're aligned with all that you are a part of, because you are actively connected and aligned to the highest part of yourself. That inspiration flows through you continuously. Part of that flow is the connection to everything that you have in your world. It's not just connection to people, it's connection to everything. Connection to how you relate to plants, how you relate to food, how you relate to in your relationships, all of those things. So in a nutshell, what happens then is that while the conscious person is finding connection, moving into self-care, the unconscious person is in the cycle of self-management. And we're going to get into that in just a second here. I'm going to bring Deb back. So how did I do, Deb? Did it pretty well
Yeah.
encapsulate?
Yeah, no, that was
Anything,
great. Yep. No,
anything
that
I
did.
missed?
It really is a vicious cycle, being in that unconscious state, below that line of connection. And I mean, it doesn't suggest that we can't connect,
Mhm.
when we're in that cycle, but real, true, authentic connection must be harder, right? Because we're in this unconscious state, and it's also a bit of a fear state, isn't it?
Yes.
Really, because it's coming from a
Yes.
place of lack, it's coming from a place of doubt, it's coming from, like you say, this willpower, this hustle, this everything's hard, this pushing, that it doesn't, that's not conducive to any real state of openness, of real true connection with others, with yourself,
Mhm.
etc. It doesn't mean it's not possible, but it doesn't seem as it doesn't flow as naturally, I'm
Yeah.
imagining, right?
Yes, and that's absolutely right. And you make a very good point, is that really none of us live in a vacuum. So we all have moments, whether we're absolutely conscious of them or not. We all have moments of connection. It's whether we nurse them, whether we focus consciously on building those connections. So rather than haphazardly coming into a positive flow of energy, you're consciously choosing to create a positive flow of energy, which has all of its own benefits and all of its own momentum. But so does the other side. Unconsciousness has just as much momentum, and I think that's where we may get people may get a little confused in that, because energy is energy. So it doesn't matter whether you're not focusing unconsciously or you're
That's right.
focusing consciously. It's still moving. Your thoughts and feelings then become about the things that create your momentum. So your focus into a particular experience or feeling then starts a momentum of negative energy into your experience. Where on the conscious side, when you're using breath, you're dealing with what comes before you as an object in the field of your awareness, as opposed to something you are reacting to all the time. So if somebody says something or if something happens, you can observe it from the conscious space, because you know that you and it are not the same thing. So you can look at it and determine how you want to engage with it, as opposed to it kind of latching on like the alien monster, and kind of glomming onto your
Yeah,
face and then
it's
pumping
happening. Yeah, it's happening to you.
you.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a really the unconscious versus conscious there's a really powerful dynamic, and it's really, I don't want to paint a black and white picture, and I want to be clear that there's a very distinct difference in the quality of your experience, conscious versus unconscious. So that's really the thing, is it's not about bad, wrong. Again, anything we do here is not about bad and wrong. It's all about choice. But remember, as we talked about in the last show, choice is about choosing. When you choose, you're choosing a reality. You're choosing an unfolding that is driven by your desire. So make sure that those choices that you're making are supporting the highest part of who you are, the greatest part of who you are. So I want to talk a little bit. The core of this idea of shifting from connection to self-care is that gap that we were looking at in the diagram. And that for me, there is a difference now when you are in the aligned space, when you're in the conscious space of wellness. As you move from connection into self-care, it's sort of an organic shift, meaning you are so dialed into your experience, this body then becomes another thing that can communicate to you about need. That's not driven from, it's driven from energy. It's not driven from, I need sugar. It's not driven from, I need caffeine. It's driven from this vessel wanting to get in as close alignment as possible with the field of the vibration you are attempting to create. Because you still got to make this body get you where you want to go. So if this body is encumbered, if this body is not maintained in some healthy way, your likelihood, it's going to be a struggle to get there from here. So this is where the wellness piece is so powerful, is that when you transition from connection to self-care, you get the signals, you get the information, the body begins to respond in a very different way than you're used to. And it's not about management of self. So I want to make this distinction Deb and I were talking about briefly. So capital S, self-care, small s, self-management. When you're in the unconscious pyramid, where the breakoff comes is that you are still stuck in how. So how becomes about self-management. So that becomes about deciding how it's going to be and then deciding how you're going to do it. So you decide, oh, okay, I got to be healthier. So I'm going to go to the gym.
I got to detox.
I got to detox.
Yeah.
Yep. I got to go on a diet. All of the above.
I got to drink more water.
I got to, there's so many of them that we do to ourselves.
I got to get better sleep.
Yes, I got to take this class. I got to go to this. I got to go to this meditation. And you say, but wait, those are all spiritual. I got to take some
time out for me.
Yes, those are all very spiritual endeavors. And I say to you, yes, they are mentally spiritual endeavors. They are the idea of spirituality. They are the idea of connection, because we're so immersed in the how, in that disconnected or unconscious place, that we're not able to see that those choices are just more management of the how. We're still stuck in the how. When you're in the consciousness, when you're in conscious wellness, you've evolved your energy to the place that your body will now begin to adjust to become part of that, and changes will take place in your body in order to accommodate the energy that you are now moving into. And for me, that happened in two distinct times, and it happens every day, but in particular for me, was a shift from being a hearty meat eater. I was a good meat eater. I liked my meat. I didn't have any problem with my meat. But at a certain juncture in my own process, my body did. And my body clearly told me no more. And I didn't get sick. I didn't.
So,
go ahead.
Yeah, can you describe for us, some of the ways that this can manifest for people, some of the signs that they could be getting from their body if they were tuned in to that extent? Because I'm imagining that some people, even if they haven't got all the foundations of the wellness pyramid set in stone yet, really in a nice rhythm, in a very conscious rhythm in their life with these things, that I'm sure, though, at some point in people's lives, most people have had this kind of innate connection to their physical body and picking up on what their body is telling them that it needs.
Yes.
And maybe you can describe some examples that we might be able to relate to.
I can. And I'm taking in what you were saying about people being connected to their bodies. I think that's largely not true. I think most people are not connected to their bodies. So how does it look? What does this feel like? So I'll tell you what my experience was, and then we can talk more in detail about what happens in that. So for me, the way it evolved was literally, it seemed like it came out of nowhere for me. I got up one morning, and the way the house was designed, the bedroom was over here, and the bedroom was over here, and the kitchen was over here. And so I got up that morning, and I was walking to the kitchen I think I was getting a cup of coffee. And literally in my head was, you're done with meat. But it was not me having a random thought. It wasn't the feeling of, it wasn't me just, oh, here I am, and oh, I don't want to do meat today. It was, there are, in my experience, two distinct voices that we have. There is the mind chatter voice, which just kind of is the one you hear just going, no, Jim, you don't want to do that. No, Jim, Jim, think about it. Did you do that nattery thing? There is another voice that when you have worked with the breath, when you are intending in your consciousness to be conscious, when you begin to really focus in that space, there is another voice that shows up. And that voice is, some call it that still small voice. I don't know. I don't label it particularly that way because I don't think it's quiet nor necessarily, but it's a presence. It's more of a presence than it is a voice. So when I heard that, you're done with meat, I literally kind of stopped and looked around, because it was like, what are you talking about? What do you mean I'm done with meat? But at the same time that I heard that, I felt it in my body. And the only thought I had, was, because it was like 4 days before the Super Bowl, and we were going to a Super Bowl party. And what is Super Bowl party? Super Bowl party is chicken wings, it's grilled meats, it's everything you could possibly imagine that you want to enjoy at a football game. And what happened for me in that moment was, I literally, only the next thought was, oh, I guess I got to figure out what I'm going to eat on Sunday, because I had to make a dish. So that's how logically, or not even logically, but just naturally and organically it shifted. And I tell you, Deb, honest to God,
Wow.
it has not been an issue ever, any day in the last 5 years. Not one.
Wow. I think that's what any one person wishes for, right? But I don't know, whatever your little vices or thing that you're not, and you didn't even feel guilty about eating meat. You loved eating meat, but whatever is good for us and feels right for us, that we would be able to just give it up that easily, and it doesn't, in a way that it doesn't even feel like we're giving up. It's just whatever anyone could give for that feeling. Wow.
We need to take a quick break. Let me come back to that. I want to pick that thread up as soon as we come back, because that's a really good thread to pull in this. So we're going to take a quick break, do a quick commercial, and we'll be right back. All right, we are back. So you want to pick up that thread, Deb, and then we'll carry on from there. You were talking about.
Oh yeah, I was just talking about how amazing that must feel for something to just give something up, something quite so fundamental in your life. And I mean, and this goes, I'm thinking of people with addictions as well, or just not even addictions, just habits or things that they indulge in or love, and but know that they don't maybe physically or emotionally benefit from. But the idea of giving up as such gives them such a feeling of fear or lack, that it must feel incredible to experience something like that, whereby one day you just click, you get this kind of other voice. And I love how you described it. There was like, where did that come from? But then you felt it immediately as well, and you just didn't even question it. And the first thing that pops into your head is, oh, how am I going to deal with Sunday? Not even from a place of, oh, Sunday's going to be hell, but more of a, oh, I have to think about now what can I eat? Amazing.
And it was such a clear transition that Michael and I would have conversations. It took probably a year before he could adjust, because every meal was oh my God, what are you going to do? Oh my God, what are you going to do? And I'm like, dude, relax. I am really clear this is my choice, but I'm also really clear that I can get food anywhere. So don't worry about me. I can find something anywhere we go, whatever we decide to do, because and this is really key to what you were describing. there was no resistance. I'll
Yeah.
tell you, I had the same experience with cigarettes. I smoked cigarettes for years. I smoked cigarettes for 30, 35 years. And the process of releasing the cigarettes, and I tried over the years, obviously, I quit for 12 years at one point. I quit for another year at one point. And what happened for me around that was that I recognized again the release of resistance. So I wasn't fighting nicotine. I wasn't fighting cigarettes. I was allowing myself to release nicotine. I was allowing myself to release the cigarettes. And so what I would do, that part in and of itself was awesome, but then another piece clicked into place for me in the process. And so every time I would witness or I would experience a craving, I would immediately say, yeah, we don't do that anymore. And I specifically say we, because I'm inclusive of the ego that thinks that's the thing we're supposed to do, and the soul that says, yeah, that's not in our field anymore. And so every time it would come up, I would turn my attention away from the craving and put my attention on we don't do that anymore. Thank you very much, but we don't do that anymore. We do something different now. Whatever it is, I would never ever say no. I would never ever say that's bad. It was always a gentle thank you, but that's not what we're doing anymore. We're doing something different now. And
so was the experience with giving up smoking cigarettes a little different to the giving up meat? Was it you had to, because there was a real physical craving there with the nicotine, although it's usually only a matter of weeks, isn't it? And eventually that goes. But even then, there's an emotional attachment that you need to release too. But so is it a little bit different? You had to kind of have that in a dialogue with yourself more than you did with the meat.
That was more layered in that the cravings were stimulated by my emotional body, right? So what I became conscious of was every time I had a craving, I was reacting to something. I was wanting to, because for me, the excuse of cigarettes was it grounded me. Cigarettes kept me grounded. Nicotine is very grounding. So over time, I began to realize that while that may be true in part, it was also a way for me to disconnect. I used cigarettes to separate myself. I could take a cigarette to get away from people. I could have a cigarette to reward myself. Those became the challenges of the point of saying, yeah, we don't do that anymore, was to say, no, we don't, that's not the behavior I want to do in this circumstance. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go, what am I walking away from? What do I need to step into right now? But again, from a non-resistant place. I wasn't coming at it from, I've got to manage this. I just said, and the quitting process was actually easier on the whole family that way, because I wasn't this bound up crazy person. And I'm trying to remember, I have to ask Michael, because I think there might have been a very brief period when it was done, that like a day maybe, or a part of a day where I was funky, but because I was aware of it, I didn't have to live in it. I could just feel it and go about my day. And so, and this could be a whole other show for sure.
I mean, look, the topic of addictions and things like that it's a huge one. It's a big one for people, right? And I think a lot of people think that they maybe need to start there, because that's the unconsciousness of the way they've lived their lives, manifesting it towards the top of the pyramid, right? It's that consuming level, but and what we really need to be doing is getting back down to the basics and putting those other foundations in place first, and then that letting go or releasing that consuming of stuff is going to be easier. I'm imagining, and that's what we're creating here. I mean, this is what the wellness pyramid is all about. It's part of your journey.
And the changes that occurred and how they occurred was because I was doing that work. So I wasn't making the changes. I was busy doing the work of my daily practice, of keeping my alignment, of doing those things that I wanted to lay that foundation. So I was having these really profound experiences. And then when it came to those, so because again, we're moving up the pyramid. So over the course of 4 or 5 years of continuing to do this, it wasn't as though it felt like it took forever at all. It was more a process of, oh, apparently I've shifted my core vibration so radically that now I have to let my body get caught up. My body has to, so then there would be these periods of 6 months of integration of all that energy. And so, it was just time of just go about the day and do what you do and continue to build the foundation. I can tell you even now, I still go through, the other voice, the little nattery voice, when it's time to go do my daily practice. There's always oh yeah, you're doing it so much, you don't need to worry about it. Oh, you're doing it so much, it's not going to kill you to miss a day. And the truth is, no, it won't. But what I know is that how I feel when I do it, how I feel consistently at level, rather than this, roller coaster of crazy. Yeah. So,
see, I can liken that. I can liken that feeling, if you like, to my experience with exercise. Right? So I'll go to the gym and I'll have a fantastic workout and I'll love it while I'm there, and they'll have that beautiful feeling of fatigue and the sense of satisfaction that it's done, and that really feeling, my body's like feeling, oh yes, it was good to get that release out, and now I feel fatigued and used, and I can relax more, and it's a great feeling, right? Mm-hmm. But then the next time it's time to come to the gym, it's like, oh, do I want to do the effort? It's the raining outside, it's all of that stuff, and you've just got to focus on that great feeling at the end. And of course, the roller coaster as well with exercise is that it's hard work training and you go through pain, and then if you stop doing it for a while, then you're going to have to go up and go through all that pain again.
And I think that's where we talk about the hows that makes it so challenging. I'm not in any way saying don't go to the gym. I'm not saying don't have a diet. What I'm saying is ensure that desire is inspired through your experience. So, because if you think about the idea of a workout in the way that it's structured now, and you can yell at me and people can holler at me all day long, but it's abuse. It's an hour or an hour and a half of nonstop abuse of the body in order to say, I'm making healthy muscles, I'm making healthy this, I'm making healthy that, and that's not really what's happening. You're just forming muscle tissue. It isn't necessarily healthy tissue, because everything else you're doing, if it's not healthy, isn't going to make that isn't going to make you healthy. So if all of the things you're doing are not contributing to your wellness, then going to the gym and abusing your body an hour and a half a day, 4 days a week is not making you well.
Absolutely. No, that does make sense. I mean, if you're not breathing well, you're not oxygenating those muscles, right, that you're forming. If you're not sleeping and rejuvenating, your body's not mending and repairing well. So you, like you say, you are just tearing muscle, tearing more muscle or whatever, fatiguing the body. Same with good food. If you're not filling your body with good nutritious food, then you're also not going to be benefiting from that. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. So it's all about
Jim, sorry, carry on, and then I've got a question for you.
Go for it. I'm here for it.
Well, I was going to say that a lot of people, not a lot of people, but some people have, they do kind of shortcut that process of, all the foundation work that you've done. And they get to a point in their lives whereby, for example, they have this massive health issue, right? Mm-hmm. And it changes the trajectory of their life and their lifestyle overnight. And they start to form these new patterns, For example, I know someone who is a hardcore raw vegan and has been for over 20 years now, can run like 20 Ks a day, is just this energizer bunny of a person. But her lifestyle before that was high stress and a highly stressful career, really burning the candle at both ends, working hard, playing hard, abusing substances and alcohol, not eating well, not resting well, high stress, ended up with this massive tumor kind of thing, and then went through this very extreme detox process, and it's just completely changed her life. So I guess I just wanted to raise that as like for some people, it seems to me they kind of shortcut this process of forming this wellness pyramid in a way that you have by unfortunately having to experience some extreme kind of crisis in their life.
Well, and what I would say about that is it just given just what you described, and I don't know this person or this circumstance, given the energy of what you described, there's a couple things here that are important to note, and that is pendulum. The pendulum swung way far to the one side of excess. And then the pendulum swung way far to the other side of excess, because that veganism and that intensity is just as extreme as the negative extreme. But the interesting thing about that is that those extremes create the same result because they're not in balance. So when the body becomes involved, when we create a disease process, it's simply a reset. It's the rubber band. If you can imagine, I'm using the pendulum idea, but imagine it as a rubber band. You pull that rubber band, you pull that rubber band, you pull that rubber band. The band stays together, but you're stretching it to the point of its inability. So it's no longer able to be a rubber band because it's being stretched to its capacity. So it's barely hanging on as a rubber band. But when you take the resistance out and allow it to come back to form, sometimes if you pulled it far enough, have you ever seen that? You pull your rubber band far enough, and when it comes back, it's a little lumpy. It's not the perfect rubber band you had when you started. And it can get there if you rub it a little, it'll come back into close to the form that it started in. But when you've stretched it so far, you've made changes to your physiology that now have to be dealt with. They can all be dealt with. It's just a question of whether you can align your consciousness in a way that releases all of that resistance, allows you to surrender completely to what it is this vessel is attempting to show you, tell you, teach you, bring to your awareness, because it's just you informing you of something you haven't been willing to look at yet. Not a bad thing, not a wrong thing, not a judgment. None of that is in this process.
No.
It's just an observation.
That's right. So I guess.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I guess what I was trying to illustrate is that your body sent you signs about what, releasing meat, for example, in a way that you felt really holistically and was almost five-dimensional. It wasn't just a kind of a voice, it was a feeling, and it was everything. It was all encompassing, right? And for someone who's been living a long time on this very unconscious path, the opposite, the pyramid on the right hand side that we've been looking at, that their body at some point will kind of do the same once it's hit this critical level where it just can't cope anymore. It will give you a very loud wake up call and a very loud sign. And then it's really just a matter of how hard are you going to listen to that? How well are you going to listen to that? And are you going to, like you say, physiologically we can change our body. Our body does change every 3 months. Our cells completely renew, and we are an entirely new person. And so, in many respects, so that's absolutely possible that if you stay on that route, that you can create that change. And she's created an everlasting change in her life. It's become she's a whole new person. Well, which is fantastic. But it just
go ahead.
Yeah. I'm done.
Okay, I was going to say that another important piece of this is that we have to understand wellness. If you're viewing wellness from the perspective of allopathic medicine, it won't make sense, and it'll be difficult because allopathic medicine is disease driven. It's all about disease. It has nothing to do with health. It's about disease. So you're putting two diametrically opposed ideas in the same space and expecting them to cohabitate, and they won't. And I don't mean to say by that is that you don't want to use allopathic medicine when it's necessary, because it's very definitely to the second point, when the physical body becomes involved in the process, there's a couple of things that can be happening. One could be that this was a course change that you chose because it was necessary. But I think largely it tends to be that unconscious conscious battle where you stayed in an unconscious state of abuse for a long time, and out of that unconscious state, the body just begins to break down. We have demonized the idea of being unwell as much as we demonize the idea of death. And the challenge with that is that when you judge your circumstance, you make it worse. So when you come into a physical issue, the best thing you can do is completely surrender. The best thing you can do is completely lose resistance to all of it. You didn't do anything wrong. You aren't a bad person. You simply were unconscious, and out of unconsciousness, you created something that you now have to confront, because that's what you're here for. We're human beings on this planet to experience, to create, to do all these amazing things. Well, if you create a disease in your body, it's your freaking body, it's your freaking energy, it's your freaking creation. Own it, be it, get it, embrace it, make it a positive thing. And I don't mean getting positive about, just being positive in word. Understand that the process, I've been through cancer. I've been through that process. I've done chemo and radiation. I've done that whole thing. And the whole point of it, just like the choosing not to eat meat, that came later. This was back in 2009. I was still a fervent meat eater. So that transition for me was in the moment. I remember sitting in the parking lot of the doctor's office going, holy cow, I never thought I was going to hear the C word in relation to me. And that here I am. And now what? And in the same moment going, I know this is here for a purpose, and being able to see in that moment the things that I had been doing over the course of 5 years in my marriage that was nothing short of destructive. It was just the last 5 years turned into this brawl between my ex-wife and I. And we would fight about everything and anything. And we went from being this amazing couple that could created an incredible natural healing center that helped people to heal themselves from AIDS and cancer and lupus and MS, to a couple that could barely say civil words to each other and would fight at the drop of the hat anywhere. And it was just the nature of what happened. And so even in that process, there was that moment of course, this is where I am. You've been irresponsible with your energy for 5 years. You've abused her. You've abused you. What else do you think is going to happen as a natural result of that? But that's just the way I think. So, but it was never a judgment of me. It was an assessment of time to change what I'm doing. I have gone so far afield of my authenticness. I can't live there any longer. What am I going to do that? Well, I got to take care of my body. So I'm going to do the physical process. I've got to get, the disease is there. So I want to do what I can. So I'm going to take the allopathic approach because I want to get ahead of it as much as I can, if that's possible. And then through that process, I'm going to unravel. I'm going to surrender. I'm going to do those things to come to absolute clarity and shift my vibration and shift my energy and shift my approach to my life and lose all that dark cloud creating stuff and free us both from this horrible place that we brought ourselves to, that we don't need to be in anymore. And consequently, she and I are very good friends, love each other very deeply, and still talk to this day. And we've been divorced for 12 years. We went somewhere.
Jim, I feel like we need to do a whole other show on your story, your life story, because it clearly illustrates what we're trying to talk about here in the wellness. I like examples. I like to talk about examples to illustrate some of the concepts that we're talking about, and you just illustrated on the picture there.
I love examples are important, and people need to be able to ground these words into experiences so that they can go, oh, okay, you can get there from here.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
We have come to overtime.
Yeah.
So we definitely have to carry on part 2 of this conversation. This has been amazing.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being here. I'm looking forward to when your schedule allows for you to come again,
Thank
so we
you.
can carry on, and we'll work that out when we do. But always delightful to talk to you, and I love your input, and thank you for being a part of this evolution, because it's really helpful.
I've really enjoyed being a part of this evolution. I'm looking forward to seeing the finale.
Yeah, amen to that. So guys, have a wonderful day. www.adventuresintruth.com. Get my book. Check out my show. Like us, subscribe, do all that. I've sort of lost track of all of my stuff today. All of my little bells and whistles I usually have, but that's okay. Love the show. Love doing this. Talk to you very soon, and we're going to take the show to close, and I'll see you on the other side.
Have a great one, everyone.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Adventures in Truth podcast. Thank you for joining us. We'd love to connect with you. Please like us on Facebook and subscribe on YouTube. To learn more about Jim's book, Fear is a Choice, Unraveling the Illusion of Our Separation from Love, or to book a session with Jim, you can email us at adventuresintruth@gmail.com, or you can join us on the web at www.adventuresintruth.com. Tune in next time for another great Adventures in Truth podcast.